So this is media availability. I'm sure you've read our detailed media release, so we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Let's just start with the rise, the at least perceived rise in youth violence of all kinds lately. I haven't even been here 2 years and we've covered so many stories involving young people and violence of different kinds. Is there any statistical evidence of an uptick in youth violence? What's going through your head right now?
Well, the reason we're here today is because we take this very serious. And the message needs to be clear that no matter the age, you are going to be held responsible for the actions, especially actions with a firearm, violent actions. So it doesn't matter the age. If you have a firearm, we're going to catch you and we're going to get charges on you. So we take this seriously. As far as statistics showing it, I'm actually dead even on the number of juvenile arrests, so for serious violent crime. I am seeing a slight decrease in the number of auto burglaries where guns are taken out of cars. But I don't want that to be off guard, because in this particular case, you may have read in the media alert that the gun used by the 13-year-old was stolen from a car that was unlocked. We can't stress it enough. Lock your cars, take your valuables out, and if you own a firearm, do not leave it in your car. In this case, that firearm was in a car left unlocked, and a 13-year-old gets it and gets in a shootout with a 15-year-old. That can't happen. We have to reduce the access to firearms.
And going off of that, I mean, again, just to stress, we're talking about a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. That just seems, we've all been there. Those are such young ages. I mean, can you just talk about the severity of these charges and what this means for their future?
Absolutely. First of all, your life is completely changed. You know, these types of charges are going to haunt you for the rest of your life. That's the last thing we want. We want to intervene before these crimes occur, and we have a plethora of programs, and we even have Menavision here to talk about. One is to try to prevent this from happening in the first place. That's our ultimate goal, whether it's our Police Athletic League, whether it's a program that we just got recognized nationally for shielding our teens. That's a program where we actually teach teens how to apply for jobs and how to do interviews. So that's the last thing we want. And any time and we can solve this right away. If there's a tip where a juvenile has a gun, then let us know that tip before a crime's occurred, and we'll come recover the firearm. And I'll let the state attorney talk a little bit more about your question too.
Thank you. I'm Susie Lopez. I'm the Hillsborough County State Attorney. As far as teen gun violence, this is something, like the chief said, that my office takes very, very seriously as well. As far as an uptick, what we are seeing that juveniles are having guns at younger and younger ages. 13 years old is what we have here with one of these defendants. The other defendant was 15 years old. That is absolutely not acceptable. This was also not their first time in the criminal justice system. Both of them have pending charges. One of them has violations of probation, and the other one has a laundry list of pending cases. This is not the first time that these young people had guns and possessed guns. As the chief said, the firearm that was used in this case was stolen out of an unlocked car. Every person in this community can do his or her part. If there is a reason, whatever reason that you deem necessary to store your gun in your car, lock your car. It's just that simple. I've stood up here and spoken to many of you over the last 13 months telling you that every night on the 6 o'clock news, we see stories, we see Ring doorbell videos of young people trying car doors. They're not going to necessarily go in and break a window because that's too difficult. An unlocked car gives them unfettered access to firearms. If that person had locked their car, that gun would not have been stolen, that gun would not have been on the street, and we would not be standing here today.
Can I ask a dumb question, which is, are these minors charged as minors, as juveniles, or are these adult charges? Could you just explain how that works a bit?
They are currently charged as juveniles. My office will investigate whether or not they will be charged as adults. The juvenile justice system is full of diversion programs that are quite appropriate when someone shoplifts, when someone steals something from a 7-Eleven or steals something from a store, or even causes minor damage to property. A gun is a completely different ballgame. Diversion programs aren't appropriate for that. And so my office will investigate. But as the chief said, when an adult crime is committed by a juvenile, that juvenile may very well likely be treated as an adult.
I know you don't go to work hoping to charge a 13-year-old with a violent crime, of course. How do you balance the responsibility that you have with I'm sure the heavy burden of what we're dealing with here, and to the extent that a second chance is needed for a 13-year-old after all. Can you just sort of unpack how you think about that?
To be honest with you, I hate it. I have a heavy heart every time my office makes the decision to file a juvenile as an adult. It's something that we don't want to do, and it's something that we take very, very seriously because we don't want to ruin a child's life. As the chief said, these charges will follow them. But as I said as well, this is not the first foray into the juvenile justice system involving firearms for either of these two individuals. And so we have to take that juvenile's interests and balance it with our mission of public safety. It is our job, the chief's and mine and everyone involved in law enforcement and the justice system, to keep our community safe. And if that means charging juveniles as an adult when they use a firearm and discharge it, then we do what we have to do to make the community safer.
And if I could, and I'd love a response from all three of you on this, is there a feeling that charging them is clearly not a deterrent to other young people? At what point do you have to explore other options? Some of these programs you described, do you feel like charging this 13-year-old sends a message that is strong enough to other young people who do these kinds of things?
I'll let the chief and of course our friend from Men of Vision answer, but we look at every case on a case-by-case basis. It's not just what's in front of us, it's what's been behind them, what they have pending. As I said, one of these young men has about a dozen pending charges that involve, they're felonies, that involve burglaries, that involve breaking into cars, that involve firearms. So we take all of that, the totality of the circumstances, into consideration when we make that decision. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Marquavius Hamilton. It is spelled MARQUAV''IS. I am the program coordinator for Men of Vision. I'm also a youth development specialist for the Skills Center. To answer your question, it's more so about the diet, what the young men are taking in. We have to be mindful of what they're watching, the music that they're listening to as well, because it all becomes them at some point. So,
while you're here, would you tell us what Men of Vision does, what the mission is, and if you can, what the successes have been with your organization?
So with Men of Vision, we are a brotherhood service organization. We focus on all young men. We have a 99% graduation rate. All of our young men graduate. We're doing well on the ACT and ACT prep. We're also helping young men just realize what their future is, focus on life after high school. There was a gap between, kids in middle school and high school. So we want to focus on starting with the kids in middle school and just making sure they have a clear path, community service, academics as well.
Seeing a situation, an incident like this unfold, do you put yourself in the shoes of those young men? You were, once that age. How does seeing this make you feel?
So most definitely. I was also a young man, of course, at one time. I've been a part of Men of Vision since I was 13 years old. I've just turned 26 recently. So it just makes us want to, pour more into the community, reach as many as we can.
Chief, when you took this job, when you took over this role, how did you view youth violence and youth crimes at that time, and has that evolved? Have you had to focus in on that more so, perhaps?
Yes, obviously I've been doing the job for 27 years and I've basically grown up doing police work and dealing with juveniles, but being the front leader of the agency in a time like we're having now is something that definitely resonates with me. And it's not easy, but I can tell you that organizations like Men of Vision and other outreaches that we do, 20 years ago, we did not do that. So we've gone above and beyond. And your question before is about, is it a deterrent? Well, the message out there is that it is. You're going to get charged. You're going to get arrested. And there was some scuttlebutt about youth thinking that they wouldn't be held accountable. This is a perfect example of how you'll be held accountable. So if you have a tip and you want to give us a tip, whether it's anonymously, you can do it through Tip 401 or Crime Stoppers or call us directly, you can know that that tip's going to go to good use. We receive tips all the time about kids bringing guns to school, and we act on those before a crime occurs. The more tips we get, the more crimes we can prevent.
And Chief, going off that, I was going to ask, what's your message out there to, adults as well as young kids, teens, everyone out there?
I think the message is right up front. If you're a juvenile or a young teen, middle school or high school, and you're in possession of a firearm, you will get caught, you will get arrested. This is an example of it right here, right now. And the other is if you have a tip that someone has a firearm, call us. Let us intervene before a crime or a shooting occurs. We've done that in the past, and we can do it now. We just need the help. There's 1,000 police officers in the city of Tampa. There's 400,000 residents, and together we can reduce crime and make Tampa safer together.
Can you give us a rundown of this shooting? Do we know what they were arguing over or anything like that?
So we're still investigating. Obviously, it was a dispute between the two, but what the actual argument is part of the ongoing investigation.
And then have you seen crimes with juveniles? Was it a slight increase or slight decrease?
The number of arrests for juveniles involved in shooting is about the same as it was last year.
Which was
I have 4, I believe it was what it was.
4 total?
4.
And we're for this year, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you talk about what you've been doing to engage the community to get some of those tips and build relationships, such as the town hall?
Sure. Actually, tonight we're having our Town Hall Tuesday. We're going through the entire city and doing a town hall in each sector of the city or each community of the city. We've done Ybor, we've done East Tampa, we've done Sulphur Springs, and tonight it's in New Tampa. And we encourage the community to come out and give us tips, give us advice, learn what we do. You'd be surprised about the amount of community members that have no idea of the programs that we have. So it's very educational, and we're open to ideas from the community.
I know that we spoke with some people on your team last week about a new program, I believe riding with the chief.
Yes.
Can you just speak to the importance of these programs and maybe the feedback that you've gotten just in the short time that you've really begun focusing on all of this?
No, absolutely. People need to look at us, and we're not just police officers, we're human beings. And once people get to know us outside of doing traditional law enforcement work, then they learn to trust us and they realize that they can tell us more about what's happening in the community. That's community-oriented policing. And the more community that trusts us, the more tips that we get. Riding bikes or playing sports with the kids builds that rapport and increases our trust and transparency, which in turn reduces crime.